is my great honor and pleasure to be among you this evening. I have been here a few times over the last decades, so it is always a pleasure to come back and share some thoughts. If we look back, we shall see that there was a time on this earth when there were no humans. And there were mammals, apes, gibbons, and many different types of creatures. And among those species, we can find our ancestors. They have recently discovered in Assam one variety of gibbon who lives, they say, the little man of the forest, who walks on two legs, has long arms, and climbs up the tree just like a monkey. That reminds us that our ancestors were just one among the many species that lived on this earth. But our ancestors never imagined that over a period of few thousand years, their descendants will advance to such an extent that they would excel and leave all the other creatures behind. And they had not the slightest inkling that their descendants will touch the stars, will split the atom, will discover the genetic codes that carry the secrets of life, communicate through a rich vocabulary, unravel the mysteries of brain and psychobiology, fathom the invisible through nanotechnologies, and a lot more. The progress that human beings have made over the past few thousand years is indeed impressive. And of course, there is a lot more yet to come. And as per the cosmic dictum, as shared by the founder of Renaissance Universal, Kulapati, he said that what the cosmic mind has done until today will continue to be done by human mind in slow and gradual steps. So what has been achieved through the human structure, through the human beings, is not only their contribution. There is a cosmic mind behind it. There is a cosmic force behind it. There is cosmic intelligence behind it, which has goaded this evolutionary process. Now, despite all that we know today, there is still a vast ocean of truth which lies undiscovered. And the future role of education shall continue to pursue that search for truths and to expand the horizons of the known and to pose queries about the unknown. And towards this endeavor, we should not be surprised if human ingenuity can create entities that are far smarter than the ordinary humans, but may be deprived of consciousness. This decoupling of intelligence and consciousness poses a challenge for the human race, that we may have intelligent robots, intelligent machines, intelligent gadgets which can perform better than an ordinary human, and yet they do not have the same consciousness that we as humans have. The love that we manifest, the emotions that we express, and the something invisible that makes us the owners of this world, which makes us the movers and shakers in this creation. Machines cannot run by themselves. They still need some energy, somebody to plug into the socket. Howsoever advanced the robot might be, it still needs a human to get it started. In the 70s, NASA sent Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 to the outer space, which is now currently more than 12 billion miles away, and still sending us images, photographs about the deep space. And now we have even more advanced telescopes like the James Webb Space Telescope, like the Hubble Telescope, like the recently European Union set up one Euclid telescope, which are trying to help us to find out if there is life on other planets. So far, from all the knowledge that we have till today, we have not found the sign of life in this vast observable universe that we can reach or we can get information about. But that does not mean that life does not exist on other planets. They are called the search for these planets which have similar environment as this planet Earth, as exoplanets. And they have found many which are millions of light years away from here, and which seem to have ice, or seem to have water, or seem to have some atmosphere. But still, we do not know if there is developed life in other planets or other planets within not only the solar system but within the entire galactic, cosmos. So what happens on this earth is not only dependent on what we do on this earth. There are forces at work things which happen in the distant universe, they also affect what happens here. That is why it is very important for human race to explore the outer space. But as it is important to explore the outer space, it is equally important to explore the inner space, which is no less interesting than the outer space. We have billions of neurons within our head, within our brain, which are able to send and receive signals. And we still do not understand the vastness and the scope of that inner space. They are just like the stars we see on the outer world. They are the stars within our own head. But this brain is only the physical organ, and the mind which works through this brain is the software which has the capacity to communicate, send and receive signals, to code and decode language, and thereby, develop greater capacities of molding the environment around us. This inner world is very complex as it is related to the human biology. We say that it contains 50 different propensities, urges, emotions. According to our yogic scriptures, it is said that these vrittis or propensities are dharma, artha, kama, moksha, avidya, murcha, prashna, avishwas, sarvana, bhuta, lajja, vishunta, isha, sukhi, visad, kasai, krishna, moh, घृणा है आशा चिंता चेष्टा ममता दम विवेक विगलता अहंकार मोहता कपटता वितर्कता शब्द शब्द नर्म मध्यम पंचम धर्म शाद ओम ओम भट वसत वसत स्वाहा नमा विश्व अमृता परा. These are 50 different propensities which in the many different combinations it creates thousands of emotional expressions. In some creature we have greater anger, greater jealousy, greater shyness, greater bashfulness, greater propensity of sex, greater propensity of jealousy, different these emotions they are manifest. And that makes it a very colorful world. Physically we all look the same, and yet each one of us is unique because we carry our unique genetic code, and we carry a very unique mental makeup, hormonal makeup, glandular makeup, which creates different personalities. Now these, on one side, we have a world which is devoid of consciousness, appears to be devoid of biological life. But yet what we call inanimate is not inanimate because it makes animation possible. For example, human body contains salt, contains calcium, contains oxygen, and so many different minerals. We consider them inanimate. Yet they make animation possible. If they were not there, then the human body would not be able to to manifest its animation. So nothing in this universe is insignificant. what appears to be insignificant becomes very significant when we are deprived of it. As long as we have teeth, we don't worry about it. It's not so important. But when you don't have teeth, then you realize how important these teeth are. As long as we have eyes, we take it for granted. But the moment you lose your eyesight, then you realize how important the eyesight is. So everything in this world, whether animate or inanimate, has its own existential value and its own utility value. So, we live, I have shared, we have gone through a long journey of human evolution and made a lot of great advances. But on the other hand, we as human beings are still quite primitive. Because as long as we are the slave of our propensities, our emotions, then we become the victim of our own urges. Then we can become a big problem on this earth. And that is why today, in spite of greater advances that we have made, we have not been able to create one human society. Everybody wants to live comfortably. People want to have freedom. People want to have happiness. People want prosperity and abundance. People want progress. People want justice. It's common to every community, whether you are in Hamas, in Palestine, or whether you are in Israel. Both the people, they want to live happily. Whether we are in Pakistan or whether we are in India, all the people, they want to live happily, they want to be free, they want to be happy, they want to have comforts of life, they want to make some progress. And yet, we find that we are not able to achieve a world in which people can live peacefully in harmony with one another. Why? Because we cannot have freedom unless we also respect the freedom of others. We want individual liberty, but it should not go against collective interest. We want freedom, but we don't respect the freedom of others. It doesn't work. We want happiness, but we do not follow the lifestyle which can bring happiness. We don't eat properly, we don't do exercise properly, we do not do the things which we should do for our physical health, for our mental health, for our spiritual health. And when something goes wrong, then we rush to the doctor, we rush to the hospital, because we did not take the necessary precautions from an early age. So, happiness does not come by itself. It is the result of our actions. Happiness is a function of wealth divided by desire. Simple formula is, happiness is wealth divided by desire. But if you increase your wealth, that does not mean necessarily your happiness will increase. Rather, it might create more insecurity and more problems. If all the rich people would be happy, then we would not have suicides. I know I had a friend who actually came here to one of our functions of Renaissance Universal from Thailand. He was one of the richest men of Thailand. His father was the richest man of Thailand, next to the king. He was the richest man. And, he shot himself. Well, a decade ago, he shot himself to death. So if wealth was the only criteria of happiness, then The rich people would not have any pain, they would not have any suffering, they would not have any depressions, they would not have any health problems. But that's not the case. We see that happiness is not only a function of wealth, it is also a function of our desires. And we have infinite desires. We have infinite longings because we all want to be happy. So we think that if I get money, then through money I can get happiness. And naturally, so this longing for happiness is the inherent characteristic of all living beings. And we do not want only limited happiness. We want an incessant flow of happiness. We want a continuous stream of happiness, what we call Ananda. Anukula Vedaniyam Sukham, Pratikula Vedaniyam Dukham. Anand Sukham Anandam, or Ananda Brahma Ityam. There is no difference between Ananda and Brahma. Means our longing for that infinite happiness, for that eternal happiness, is Ananda, is God. So, why do we want God? Why do we want something spiritual, something super consciousness? Because when we are in contact with it, then we have no more desire for anything else. That quenches all our desire. That means it is what gives us the eternal pleasure. Pleasure is limited for a short span of time. We have very nice food. Only as long as the food is on the tongue, you feel the taste. The moment it goes beyond the tongue, there is no taste. It's just like any other food. You can put rasgulla, or you can put gulab jamun, or you can put anything else. The taste is only up to here. When it goes inside, then it has to go through the whole process. So, pleasure is for a very short span of time. It lasts only for a short span. Happiness is for a longer period of time. A person says, I am happy, I have money, my children are well settled, everything is fine. Suddenly there is an earthquake, there is a cyclone, everything gets destroyed, and we lose that. So where there is pleasure, there is pain, where there is happiness, there is sorrow. But when our happiness is not dependent on anything material, anything external, then that state of being is the state of Ananda. So the pursuit of Ananda is the ultimate goal of living beings. This is what we call Bhagavad Dharma, the Dharma of living beings. Now, we are living in a world which has many problems. The specter of prolonged wars still haunting us. The unemployment, dwindling purchasing power, these have become perennial problems. So, one of the reasons for these multiple problems in the world is because we are lacking balance in human life. For example, on the physical realm, what do we need? We have desires, we have urges, we have longing, so we need, these desires is what creates demand. And in order to fulfill those longings, those desires, that demand, we need goods and services. We need supply, demand and supply. This is what economy is all about, demand and supply. Now, if our desires or our demand is not keeping balance within our own life, then we can demand more than what we need or more than what everyone needs. Because not only one individual needs, everybody else also needs. So we have, this is what economy is all about, to understand what is the total demand and what is the total supply. There is another ingredient, and that is purchasing power. Because if there is demand and there are goods and services, but if you have no money, then you cannot fulfill, you cannot bring the two together. So these three things is what makes an economic system: demand, supply, and purchasing power. Now today we have the technology, we have the ability to monitor the demand. This is what business does all the time. And we have the capability also to create goods and services. That's what industry does. That's what commerce does. But the problem comes with the purchasing power. Now, in order to get purchasing power, we need employment. If you don't work, you will not get money. Somebody will give you something one time, two times, but not all the time. So if we want to have a functioning society, then we need to have a system in which everybody has purchasing power and which is constantly increasing over a period of time. Because our desires are not only for one time. We had a thatched house, now we want a pakka house, then we want a little bit more comforts there. We had a bicycle before, now we want a scooter, then we want a car, then we want a helicopter and whatnot. So this is a dynamic process. It is not a static economy, it is a dynamic economy. So this is called Prama Samriddhi. When there is balance among these three things, then that is what brings about Prama Samriddhi. So if we are educating our children only for the supply side, okay, you become a computer engineer, you become a medical doctor, or you become whatever field you choose, and if they are only looking at the supply side, because what they are preparing themselves for is only the supply side. But if we have no control over the purchasing power system and the demand system, then we will have imbalance in the economy, and we will always be like on a roller coaster. Sometimes, $1 is worth only 50 rupees, then it becomes 80 rupees, 90 rupees, and it goes up and down. Now, then there is a concentration of economic wealth in the hands of the few, either in the hands of the government or in the hands of the private individuals. Then they decide where they want to use that money for. If Bill Gates decides or Elon Musk decides that they want to go to Mars, they want to invest in going for tourism to Moon or whatever, they will put all their resources behind that because they are controlling those resources. So as long as we do not have a system in which there is, balanced allocation of wealth, as long as we have disparities in the world, we will never have a peaceful society. And this is one of the problems we are facing on the mundane realm. The biggest problem on this earth today, economic problem on this earth today, is concentration of economic wealth. Disparities in the field of economy. And wherever you have wide disparity, some disparity, okay, one person earns 100, another person earns 1,000. Okay, there is some disparity, but that gives you motivation to work more to earn 1,000 instead of 100. But when you have one person earning 100 and another person earning 1 billion, so 1 million, this wide disparities, this is a problem not only of India, not only of Orissa, it is a problem of Brazil, it is a problem of the United States, it is a problem of Europe, it is a problem even in China and in many other places. This problem is a universal problem. Because in the Vaishya Yuga, this is what happens. That people realize that because it is part of human biology that we want happiness. So we want pleasure. It is inbuilt into human biology. Everybody wants it. But the problem is that when we go after that pleasure, when we get obsessed with the pleasure of material things, then it leads to accumulation of wealth. So people realize that I can get pleasure if I have money. If I can control money, then I can go to Maldives, I can go to Madagascar, I can go to Europe when I want, I can go wherever. So this desire for pleasure is what leads to the accumulation of wealth, and which creates at some point disparity in the society. So the system of the society and the individual state of mind, they are very closely related. And our education system is in between there. It is feeding into one or the other. Now, the solution is that there is nothing wrong with having all these desire for pleasure, but it should not end up into addiction. Because when you take Rasgulla one time, or you take another one, then another one, then another one, before you know you have diabetes. Because you realize that, tasting of the pleasure one time doesn't stop only at one time. It goes to the again and again and again and again before we know that we become addicted. Just like today we have become addicted to our mobile phones. One time you see Facebook, then you see it again, you see again, and then new and new things are coming up, and we spend hours and hours, children spend hours and hours in video games and in addiction to this gadget. Before they used to go and play outside in the street or somewhere, and they had got some exercise, but now their eyes are fixed to the mobile phone. So it's again same problem of addiction. So we want pleasure, but we have to make sure that the pleasure, because this turns into, it's called bhoga, and bhoga turns into roga, and roga leads to mara. Ultimately, today the problem is not of information. Education at one time used to be only transmission of information. We would go and the teacher will tell A, B, C, D, or they will tell us about the solar system, or they will tell us about the physics, different, and information was shared, and that was the end of education. Today we find that information is free. You don't need to go to Google. Anything you want to find out, just you go to Google and or you can access information. Many of the big universities, they are giving information, their course information free as open software. So anybody can get access to the information. But that information, how far it is correct and how to utilize it, from the data is present in this universe. Everything is part of data. The sun is shining on the sun and is creating many life forms, and that life forms is the source of all the data. What is present on the sun, everything is part of data. But from that data, we package it in the form of information. And when we see the patterns in the information, then that becomes knowledge. Then we see that, if you do like this, this is cause, this is effect, this is cause, this is effect, and we understand what is the causal relationships, and that is how we understand those patterns. They help us to give us laws of physics, or law of thermodynamics, or laws of this physical universe. Because we see those patterns in life, and they are repeated, and when they are repeated, then we can predict based on that repeated cycles. We can predict. Same thing happens also in the world of economics. They observe what are the different cycles of money supply, of demand, of supply, and then they are able to predict what is going to happen tomorrow. So today we have new types of problems. We have the problem of fake information, fake news, We have the problem of plagiarism. As ChatGPT comes, the students, they can rely on all that technology in order to make their term paper. There are automatic programs which will make your term paper. You know, when I studied in India and when I first went to America, our one professor, he gave us an open book exam. He gave some questions and he said, okay, you can take it home and tomorrow you submit it. So I was not used to that because we were supposed to just, whatever you learn, you memorize it and you go in the exam and you repeat it and you dish it out. But there you have to understand the concepts. Otherwise, you will not be able to answer those questions. There are some tricky elements within those questions which you could not understand unless you have understood the concept. So, knowledge and experiential knowledge is becoming the need of the times. And today, as I mentioned, that information overload itself has become a problem. There is so much information that itself has become a problem. So, and what is scarce now is attention. What we will give our attention to. So this focus on, and that requires some inner capability of what we are going to focus, how much we are going to focus, for how long we are going to focus. This requires inner capability. That is why, there is, the knowledge landscape or educational landscape is changing today. Knowledge has become personalized, is becoming customized. It's not that everybody has to learn the same thing. Not necessarily. You can take physics, chemistry, mathematics, you can take art, music, and language also, because knowledge is interrelated. Everything is interrelated. Because education is about understanding the hidden interrelationships among everything that exists in this universe. And those interrelationships, to understand, it requires, the mind has to be developed. It has to be able to go deeper into concepts, to be able to see the interrelationship. We are seeing, this body is one whole. There are many different organs. There are hands, there are feet, and there are different organs in the body. So if we only try to fix only one part of the body and do not know the cause of why it is not working properly, we might find that the problem is in the heart, or the problem is in the liver, or the problem is in the kidneys. So that's why we need to understand the interrelationships in this area. Today, many of the species are becoming extinct. The oceans are full of plastics. These biosphere consciousness, if it is not developed, this world will become an inhabitable place to live. Human beings won't be able to survive because the water that we drink, the air that we breathe, is the result of lack of this biosphere consciousness. So this deeper understanding about the creation and about our own self, both are the integral part of the challenges which are being faced in the educational system. And today we are developing a new discipline, techno-ethics, because technology itself brings many ethical issues. And this techno-ethics is becoming a new emerging discipline, where every engineer, every student has to have understanding of certain values which emerge from our wisdom, of how to use the technology. Because technology is a double-edged sword. It can also destroy culture, it can also destroy society, it can also build society. So, both are needed at the same time. So we are living in a world, which is where the technology will be augmenting our learning process. Knowledge is becoming collaborative. Learning process is becoming collaborative. And ROL, means the information that you get from outside learning. That is also becoming a legitimate mode of source of learning. It's not only what you learn in the classroom, but what you observe outside. So the students, they work on these collaborative projects, project-based learning. They go out and they do a project. They'll go and they'll look whether this water, what is the nature of this water? Is it what content does it have? Does it have any bacteria? Does it have what kind of minerals does it have? So there are water kits which the students they take, and so the knowledge is getting connected with life. It's not divorced from life. Even from the early childhood, information can be given which is connected with their life. I have a school which I started in a village in Purulia district near Ananda, the Chippu village, and I started teaching these children how to say thank you in different languages. And now all these 100 children, they can say thank you in 35 languages of the world. You just have a German, danke, Vietnamese, come on, the French, merci, Spanish, gracias, Italian, gracia, Tamil, nandri, Malayalam, nandi, different, Swahili, asanti. These 3-year-old children, they pick up these things like this. Because if we want to make their mind universal, then they have to not only learn, they have to learn about their local culture, but they also need to understand what is the universe. They can tell you, these small children, they will tell you what is the rate at which the moon is moving around the earth. 1 kilometer per second, the moon is moving. The earth is moving 18 miles per second around the sun. The sun is moving around the galactic Milky Way center 223 kilometers per second, and so on and so forth. The children, their brain is ready to assimilate. They are like a blotting paper. Anything which we teach them, they are ready to learn. But information is not knowledge. It's just putting the pillars. It is just like when you want to construct, you need to put some pillars. So, we, in the early days, we have to create certain foundation for spirituality, for anatomy, physiology. They can tell you frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, occipital lobe, different glands of the body. Small children, I ask them, okay, tell what are the glands in the body, and they will tell, pineal gland, pituitary gland, hypothalamus, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, and thymus gland, pancreas, and adrenal glands, ovaries, testes. So, we have to choose what information to pass on to the next generation, which will help them to become balanced individuals. This is the goal, because unless the human beings become balanced in their mental makeup, they won't be able to create a balanced society. Just as we need to have balance in the physical realm, we also need to have balance in the psychic realm. First, we need awareness, but awareness is important, but it is not sufficient condition. It is necessary but not sufficient. Why? Because I may know that walking is a good exercise, smoking is bad for health, but I may still smoke. I may still not go for walking. I may still not do any exercise. So awareness is not enough. That awareness has to be converted into an attitude, positive attitude. When that conviction comes within us, that yes, this is something good for me, important for me. We say children, meditation, they should do meditation. I do 10 minutes of meditation with my children there in that school. And beginning I started with 1 minute, then 2 minutes, then 3 minutes. Gradually I made it to 10 minutes, 12 minutes. And they sit. And first they would sit like this, and then slowly I taught them to sit straight. I helped them, their back becomes straight. And now, even 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, up to 12 years old, I find that they are able to sit very comfortably. Now, they may not understand what is the importance of it, why. But then, Once they experience something, then they know, oh, it feels good. And now they want to do it. I saw some children who were not in the beginning not interested, and then gradually, you just repeat it, you just walk, you observe, and you find slowly, they just follow. So many people, I have taught meditation to people all over the world of all ages, from 5 years to 95 years. People learn, but they don't practice because they don't understand why it is so important. If we have come on this earth, there must be a reason why we have come on this earth. Only just to eat, drink, sleep, marry children, and die. Is that the only purpose for which we have come on this earth? No. That is why we used to say Vidya. There are two types of Vidya, Paravidya and Aparavidya. Paravidya is intuitional knowledge and Aparavidya is the worldly knowledge. Physics, chemistry, mathematics, geometry, all these are Aparavidya. And Paravidya is the intuitional knowledge, knowing about Atma, about mind. This mind, still our scientists don't understand what this mind is. Brain they understand, there is some brain, but what is mind? They say it is the emerging property of the brain. This is mind. Well, you are looking at me, you are having a very colorful image of me in your head. Now, how can I know what imagery is there in your head? Do we have any technology today? Is there any X-ray? Is there any tool by which we can see what images are being created in our different people's lives? That is how primitive we are in our understanding of the mind. Everybody is seeing this world. But what you are seeing, yes, maybe if you are an artist, what you are seeing, you can put it in the art form and you can display it. If you are not an artist, maybe you cannot display very well. But even all what we are perceiving within our head, we cannot capture all the emotions, the feelings, and everything which is there. So today, and our rishis, they spend a lot of time on the understanding of this mind. Patanjali, he spent a lot of time on this. Patanjali Yoga Sutra is full of yoga psychology. And what I mentioned earlier about the breath is nothing but psychology. It is our yogic psychology, biopsychology. So we have to not only, first of all, realize this about this body and the capacities of this body. Now today, neuroscience is being used in order to help the children to learn better. You can test each child through certain neurological methods, and you can find out what problem that child is going to encounter maybe 10 years from now or 20 years from now. And if you can rectify it at that, if you can work with that child at that early age, you may find that the child will not have ADHD or may not have the problems later on in the age. So there is a lot of neuroscience application for the development of children and improving their learning capability. This knowledge is still not fully, being applied. So there is in terms of knowledge, there is no limit. There is so much which is still lying undiscovered, and the psychic realm, how to that attitudes must be translated into lifestyle. So awareness, attitude, and lifestyle. When it becomes your lifestyle, then it helps us, not to become victim to different vulnerabilities which are there, And finally, in the spiritual strata, there is, something which we don't see. We do not know what life is all about. There is life force in us. People say, our scriptures say, there is Atma in us. There is Jivatma. But what is this Atma? What is this Jivatma? A person was talking, I'm talking to you, and suddenly I get a heart attack and I fall down and I collapse, and you say, oh, Shambhushivananda was giving us a nice talk, but he's no more. My body is still there, but I am not there. So who am I? I have this body, but I am not this body. Body is just a tool that I am using to communicate with you or to be in front of you. And The brain is there, but brain is not able to send and receive signals. You can say, please get up, please get up. I may be hearing, but I cannot respond because the brain no longer. So there is something which is behind this physical body which is there. There is mind. Mind, as long as mind is there, person can go in a coma. Person has not died, but he is in a coma. The mind is gone into some state where it is in a suspended state. But the person can come back from coma, and then they can tell many things. Maybe they touch certain. There are many instances where people are able to describe many things that they have felt and seen and realized during the coma period. So, and then there is something which is behind this mind, and that is, like if I write a poem, I'll say, oh, this is the poem which I wrote when I was 5 years old, or when I was 10 years old. Now, it has come from my mind. The mind has different capabilities. You can use those capabilities and become a doctor, become a scientist, become an astronaut, become a truck driver, or become an engineer, or become whatever. So, mind has certain capabilities, and we have transferred these capabilities into machines. That is what machine learning is all about. That is what artificial intelligence is all about. It's not artificial. It is actually augmented intelligence. It would be more correct to say it is augmented intelligence. Because we have the intelligence that we have transferred that consciousness into that machine, into that robot. That is robotic consciousness. And now we are even able to put certain emotions into those robots. If you are not nice to that robot, the robot will say, I don't like you. You are being mean to me. There is a robot in France, in Japan, where they are responding to your emotions. If you are angry with them, they will respond. So gradually, that is what I mentioned earlier, that what the cosmic mind is doing, has been doing since eternity, is gradually being done through the human mind in slow and gradual steps, and we are transferring it into machines. But still, human being is more than a machine. It's more than what my intelligence. I have intelligence, but I am different than my intelligence. I say this idea is from me, so I am the owner of that idea. So what is that I? I know that I am. I know that I exist. That knowing I is the Jiva. It's just like if you have one sun and 3 ponds. You see the reflection of the sun in the 3 ponds, and you see 3 different suns in the pond. Now that pond itself is like if there was no water in the pond, it would just be a ditch. You would say it is a hole in the ground. It is a ditch. That is like the brain. Because if there is no mental capability in the brain, it's like a ditch. So you need water in the pond, in that ditch, in order to make it into a pond. Because then water gives it the capability to reflect and to receive the reflection. And that is what the mind does. Mind is able to send and receive reflection. And that is what the speciality of this mind. So, but that sun which you see in the pond is not the real sun. It's just a reflection. So the reflecting sun is the Supreme Consciousness, Paramatma. And the reflected sun in the pond is the Jivatma. And the brain is that which is holding that. So when our life force is that I am, I exist, that is part of mind, but I know that I exist. That knowing I is the subjective counterpart of the mind. That is what is called Jivatma. So Jivatma is not mind, but it is the subjective counterpart. It is the witnessing faculty of the mind. Now this has been discovered thousands of years ago. Since the time of Shiva, since the time of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita is full of these, and since then so many rishis and munis have come and they have developed that knowledge. That is very important knowledge. it is not only important to produce for an institution to only produce engineers. They should produce engineers, but along with the engineers, they should also study Veda. They should also study, Shastras. They should also study, this, because then that will give them a holistic understanding about life. They also need to do meditation. If they don't do meditation, they will not attain realization of the Jiva. And if you don't understand, if you don't practice, you don't realize that consciousness. So this is the challenge which the future education is going to face. That we have made a lot of advances in the material science, but we are lagging behind in the realization of the spiritual science. We have not given it. And Paravidya should actually guide Aparavidya. Aparavidya is the mundane knowledge, the worldly knowledge. And Paravidya is the intuitional knowledge, the spiritual knowledge. And that is the purpose actually for which we come on this earth, is not only for Aparavidya, but for Paravidya. And that's why we say Sa Vidya Ya Vimukte, knowledge for liberation, physical, mental and spiritual. We need knowledge to liberate us from economic bondages, worldly bondages. That's why worldly education, knowledge about this material world is very important, is also very necessary. But along with it, we also need knowledge which will free us, like we are in bondage, psychically we are in bondage, by our dogmas, by our narrow sentiments, caste system or narrow isms. They also create, I belong to this Gotra, or I belong to that Gotra, I belong to this, I'm a Brahmin, or I belong to this, or I belong to that. All these also they create, limitations of the mind. The mind is not free. Mind is bound by certain, mundane things. So if we want to liberate this mind, then it needs to be guided by cosmic ideation, cosmic sentiment, universal sentiment. And when we are guided by universal sentiment, then you can be anywhere. You can be living in a village, but you have the consciousness of, and you can be universal. You can know what is happening all over the world. You don't necessarily need to go all over the world to know what's going on. Sitting in the village, you can know. And this is today where, we have come to the point where we need to preserve the inner ecology and the outer ecology, both. Only looking after outer ecology is not enough, and only looking after inner ecology is not enough. India was lagging behind because we went inside what we said, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. That was the philosophy we were guided by. This world is illusion. Every day, person is born, they die, so why to work for it? Because you are going to die. No. That is wrong philosophy. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. When somebody slaps you, you feel the pain. You cannot say it is Mithya. It is true. Neither we can say Brahma Mithya Jagat Satyam. This world is the reality, and then there is nothing like God. Who sees the God? It is just only an imagination of a few people that they have created the concept of God, and so it does not really exist. This is another extreme, and that is also wrong, because this universe cannot come out of nothing. It has come out of something. So what has it come out of? That's whole philosophy, spiritual philosophy is all about, Maharishi Karat, starting from Maharishi Karat, he said that, there cannot be an effect without a cause. So we need to understand what is the cause. Going back, cause after cause, we come to the point of that supreme consciousness. So that philosophy is also defective. It says that Jagat Satyam Brahma Mithya. The correct philosophy should be Brahma Satyam Jagat Satyam Apekshikam. Means this Brahma is the truth, that supreme consciousness is the truth, but this world is relative. It's not absolute, relative. So we have to maintain adjustment in this world. But that cannot be the goal of our life. You can live with 100 rupees, or you can live with 1000 rupees, or you can live with 10 million rupees. It's your choice how you want to live. But that cannot be the goal of your life. One day you have to leave this earth. And if you are becoming attached to your car, to your house, to your land, to your property, to your children, that becomes a bondage. So how to free ourselves from the bondage of life? That is the purpose of education. And that will be the education of the future age. The future age education would be balance. How to bring balance? Prama Samriddhi, Prama Riddhi, and Prama Siddhi. Education of the future will be where the spirit will goad the mind and the mind will goad the matter. Not the matter will guide the mind and mind will guide the spirit. No, that will not work. So the future education is not where the brute force will control the society. Rather, it would be the love, it would be the spirit of fraternity which will goad the society. You know, in 1215, the Magna Carta was given, and then later on, 235 years before, still there was disparities, and then there was a call for equality, liberty, and fraternity in France, which touched the sentiment of so many people, and we got French Revolution. Once again today, we are faced with a similar situation. There is disparities, there is helplessness, there is hopelessness, we have reached a situation where people don't know where to go, how to go. We have no control over the vast industrial military complex. The nation states, they spend trillions of dollars on weapons just to secure themselves. It's because we don't have dialogue. We don't have, universal love. That's why we have these problems. So the world we have created is not a safe place for the future generation. If we want to create a safe world, we will have to come up with a new idea, with a new philosophy, with new thinking, and with new visions, and which will have to be spiritually based, which will be universal, which will be rational, and that type of education, which we call new humanistic education. Their love of human heart extends to embrace the entire living world, even the inanimate world. That type of educational philosophy alone can foot the bill for the future. So I think with these remarks, I will stop, and if you will have questions or